if it's in the account. I will.
Hello.
Hey, Emily.
Can you see me?
I can, yeah.
Okay, I cannot see myself. Maybe that's mine. Yep, that's just me. In my weird settings. Awesome. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon now, I guess. So excited to have everyone here.
Hey everyone, good morning or afternoon. Not good morning still. Just quickly, I went to the meetup page and I click on the Zoom link and it gave me an error. So I don't know if other people are having the same problem. I just copied the meeting ID and that's how I got in. But just so you know, it could be me. I got an error when I click on it saying something about the link is messed up. So just so you know.
Okay, thanks for letting me know, Carlos. I appreciate that.
There was no colon in the link.
Oh, okay.
I might be able to, I'll see if I can fix it. I don't know.
Alrighty. Let me shoot someone. Dave, do you have editing privileges? Is that what you're trying to
I
edit?
used to.
Okay.
I'm trying to see if I do.
Okay. Dave to the rescue.
Maybe. Screen's doing all kinds of things I'm not asking it to do right now. So. To manage attendees.
All right. Well, I shot Dave, keep troubleshooting that. Thank you. I appreciate you jumping in. Same as with you, Carlos. I also shot a message to Ben and Lacey, who have been helping organize everything. So maybe they'll see the message. But we do have a handful of folks here. So I will go ahead and get started, and I'll be more than happy to connect with anyone else later. Let me just bring my slides up, but I'm so excited that you all have joined me on this beautiful, if you're in Central Ohio, beautiful Wednesday morning. I see some nods that are maybe as excited as I am that we finally get to get outside today. But this morning, we're going to talk about design thinking for social innovation. So I'll give just a quick intro about myself. For those of you I haven't met before, I don't see a ton of familiar faces in the room, which is exciting to me. But my name is Emily Stilger. I am HQ staff at Give Back Hack. My background really is in design thinking education, social enterprise, and facilitation. The thing that I'm doing now is the thing that I love to do. And I identify as lots of things. I'm a social innovation nerd. I try to stay up on all the trends. I love reading books about all the new social innovation and design thinking things. I love getting outside, hence my huge enthusiasm for the weather today, because I'm so excited to see the sun. But I'd love to know a little bit more about just who's in the room? Can I see like raise of hands if you're like design folks, tech folks, if you identify that way or excited to learn about those things, or maybe like a thumbs up in the chat or like, I don't know, something in the chat. Okay, not seeing any. What about impact folks? Are any of you like really excited about the impact side of things? Yeah, I see some thumbs up. Sweet. And what about those of you who are just starved for human interaction? So you came to Meetup to meet some really cool people. I see some smiles, so hopefully, and some thumbs ups. Got it. Awesome. Cool. Well, same to all of those things. I'm not a tech professional by trade, but I'm definitely one by interest. And I come from an organization called Give Back Hack. Just a brief overview of us. Give Back Hack is really passionate about bringing design thinking and product management practices to the impact space. We believe that empowering individuals through our process helps make more impact and makes entrepreneurship attainable. It's a fancy way of saying that we give the community the resources they need to start new social impact businesses. We do that through community events, and we also do it through partnerships and facilitation services, really finding ourselves at the center of this technology business community triangle, which is where I spend my everyday activities, which is awesome. So today we're talking about this design thinking thing. So what I'd love to see in the chat is if you guys have heard of design thinking before, describe it in one word. What's like one thing that comes to your mind when we start to talk about design thinking? Empathy, iteration. Okay, some of the phases, that's great. Anyone else? How might we? Oh, that's great. Y'all are pros. This is awesome. Doomsday weapons. Okay. All right, these are some good ones. I think of simple, which is not something that I think everyone would say, but it's really like my mantra of design thinking is to really simplify and make a process easily attainable for everyone. I also saw thinking outside the box in the chat, which is a great one. Okay, so who's seen this chart before? Can I see some hands or some raise the roofs a little bit? Yep. Okay. So this is the most, I'd say, simple or basic classic design thinking model, if you will. Here at Give Back Hack, we don't reinvent the wheel. We know that really smart people have done a lot of work in this process and making it a model. And so we borrow from them. So this Stanford Design School's design thinking model. It has 5 phases, and it looks a little bit like this. But there's a lot of different ways to look at design thinking. There's also all of these, and probably 5 more slides of these. My personal favorite is the one in the upper right. It's the equity design community-centered model. There's the IDEO model up top. There's more of the lean startup model on the left. There's lots of different ways to talk about this. But really, the most important thing is that design thinking is this iterative, I saw the word iterative earlier, iterative approach to designing anything. So if you're familiar with design thinking, you probably know that already, but really there are these 5 stages that we're gonna break down together today. This is a workshop, so we're gonna get our hands a little dirty, maybe not since it's a virtual environment, but we're really gonna get hands-on and see what it looks like to use these stages for social impact. So we'll go through them one by one together and then kind of wrap it all up. But before we get to that, today's not just about design thinking. It seems like some of you are familiar with it, but the more curious piece might be this social innovation piece. So just so we're all on the same page, we'll define social innovation how Wikipedia does, the classic, just any practices that aim to meet social needs for a better way, making them better than existing solutions, resulting from lots of different social conditions, whether they be working conditions, living conditions, economic conditions, identity conditions, whatever they may be that put you in your place in the world, making the social conditions for you better. So we're going to take design thinking, we'll take social innovation, we'll smash them together. But why? So design thinking it's really a buzzword. We've been talking about it for a while now, but the reason why we believe that design thinking is really powerful in the social innovation space is mostly that we just don't know everything. If we jump in and try to build social impact programs without going through any sort of design process, we'll be making a lot of assumptions about people's experiences that we just don't know. I guess that could be true of anything that you design. But even if we know where to start, even if we have a good hunch that like hunger is a problem and we might want to feed folks, we don't know where we'll end up along the way based on what we find out. And most importantly, if you take nothing else away, the core here is how to help the right way. Jumping in to help in ways that are uninformed often end up not less helpful than intended, sometimes even harming the issue at hand more than when we came in. So if we want to make scalable impact, if we want to actually move the needle, pick your phrase, on the issue that you're passionate about, using design thinking as this method to learning more and more about how the world works around us will help us figure out the keys and the pieces of the puzzle to help impact it. So that's hopefully the most talking I'm going to do at you all today, because I love to get you all working more than just listening to me chat. So we're going to do kind of a case study workshop today based around Renter Mentor, who, if any of you have heard of them, great. Don't spoil the answers for others. But Renter Mentor is a startup social enterprise tech company. Lots of jargon words in a row. Basically, they're a tech company trying to approach the affordable housing problem through technology. They started as a Get Back Hack team, so they have a great place in my heart, but they've been around for a few years, really getting to know this issue and tackling it. So we're going to go through the stages of design thinking as if we were in the founder of Renter Mentor, Jerry Valentine's shoes. So phase one is empathize. I saw that you all might be familiar with this word. We talk about empathy a lot when it comes to relating with other people, but empathy is really this idea of learning about your audience. So this could be the folks who are experiencing the issue at hand, if you are not one of them, if you don't have lived experience of the social issue you're trying to approach. In this case, for Renter Mentor, they are trying to address affordable housing. So they have folks who need affordable housing, they have other people in the housing space. And I would love for you all to, in a moment, you're going to be put into breakout rooms and you're going to get your team. So you'll meet your team, and with your team, what you're going to do is you're going to embrace this idea of empathy. Just try it out for yourself. If you were trying to address affordable housing, just generally, starting with understanding the issue, who do you want to talk to and what questions would you ask them? I'll give you about maybe 5 to 7 minutes to talk with your new teams when you get into your rooms. Which we'll get an invite to soon. You should have invites to your breakout rooms. Have so much fun. Sweet. Go team.
All right.
Good stuff.
Did you want to go to breakout rooms? Okay,
No,
cool.
I'll stay here. We'll debrief when we come back.
There's only 3.
That's okay.
Yeah. And there seems to be 3 or 4 per breakout room.
That works. I'm okay with that. I need to get a laptop stand and rise this up. Every time I'm on a workshop, I'm like, wow, I wish this was like 6 inches higher.
Yeah, I need to invest in one. And let me know when you want me to bring them back.
Cool. Sounds good. Um, I also saw on Kickstarter yesterday, there's this webcam that's like a webcam surrounded by a ring light with like a quality microphone integrated into it, which sounds like something someone should have made before, but it's like actual high quality audio, and I don't need it, but I want it so badly. It's only like $80, so we'll see.
That's not bad at all.
I know.
It's not bad at all, because like a lot of times a headset, like a good decent headset is $80 in itself, and right there you get a camera, microphone, and lighting.
Yep, and you can like plug in, you can line into the microphone too, and like adjust the volume separate from your computer. It's like really nice. I know, right?
It's nice. I had a meeting yesterday, and we were trying to figure out if, like, because it's automatically recording, but we were trying to figure out if when we split to breakout rooms, if it records in the breakout rooms as well. I'm not too sure.
No, it just records us.
Okay, so it just records the main session?
Yes.
Okay, that's good to
Which
know.
is funny for times like this where we're just like chatting, trying to pass time. And then we don't get the breakout sessions. Yeah. Give Back Hack ran like a week-long virtual design sprint in the fall. So we had like a ton of sessions of recordings to weave through. And we were like, oh no, every time we were just chatting here, it was recording.
That's awkward. That's funny.
It is awkward. It's funny. It's honestly mostly just a pain in the ass if you want to do anything with that footage, to like go and edit it all out. Kind of sucks, but it's okay.
It was awkward because like, so I joined the meeting to start admitting people or whatever, and it automatically started recording. So like, I was like, this is weird. It's just recording me sitting here.
It is strange. Okay, you can probably bring them back. I'll probably give them like a time frame.
Yeah, it's I think they can come back, but it'll automatically break in like 50 seconds.
Okay, cool. That's good to know.
So it starts a little countdown.
Yep, sweet. Welcome back, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Wow, so many new faces. It's good to see you all. How did that go? Do we feel good? Can I see like thumbs up, sideways? Good. Okay, cool. Any brave souls want to tell me who we should be talking to if we want to address affordable housing?
We don't have, this is Carlos,
Yeah, hi, Carlos.
we didn't have enough time because, you keep getting more and more things as you talk. But one of the things that we came up with the group was, well, first of all, maybe understand the different groups within the affordable housing issue, because there can be many, they might have different problems.
Yeah.
So, and once you define that, maybe you want to talk to them, the different problems. And one of the things that we said was, we can make assumptions of what we think it is affordable housing, that it could be money related right away, but we don't know. It could be wrong. We need to talk to them and understand so we can empathize and maybe see it from a different point of view, because we're not in their situation, so we have no clue, but
Yeah.
we assume, but one thing that I said was like, you need to challenge the assumptions. One of the design thinking things that they tell you to do is like, you could be wrong, so let's go find out more information. So
Yes,
anyway,
absolutely. That's awesome.
And I want to expand on that. Within that, we, very quickly, kind of saying within our community, those different groups, you have people who have been in generational poverty. You have people who are maybe new in their career and can't afford the area. You have people who are being forced out of areas because of gentrification, right? And then you also have people who probably consider themselves middle class but can't keep up with, double-digit home value price increases year over year, right? So, and then I think the last point that I really wanted to bring up is the people who are maybe more able socioeconomically will likely have a louder voice, right? Unfortunately. So how do you make sure you're hearing from all the different people, and then you're likely not going to have a one-size-fits-all solution to the problem?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great. It sounds like y'all have a really good grasp on this. You're exactly right. There's lots of people to talk to, and to understand their lived experiences and to understand how complicated this issue is. Like understanding, like if you were just coming into the space and you didn't have any background on affordable housing, you might not know that there's different facets or different graphics of people within this broad issue. So you all have brought up a ton of great points. But what do we do with that empathy that we've learned? And so what Sandip, I think, was just getting to is this idea of defining the problem at hand. So again, issues, whether they're design challenges that are more traditional or social issue design challenges, are big and broad and complicated and sticky. So we want to get really specific on the thing that we are trying to solve. And we might not know that before we go and do some good empathy work. That empathy work being those interviews with folks, working with people who've already worked in the space. Once we do all that and we come back together with our team, we need to define what is ahead of us so that we know what we're targeting with our solution. So I won't make you all do this one together because we don't have time to actually do all the research in the affordable housing space today. But when Jerry and his team at Renter Mentor went, they talked to two main groups of people, low-income households that qualify for Section 8 vouchers, but also landlords. They're an important facet here. If you are going to address affordable housing, you need someone with houses. So whether that's the government or individuals, they decided to go with individual landlords, and they really understood their needs. So challenged all their assumptions, threw them out the window of what their lived experiences were, and figured out what are the priorities for these people. So low-income households, or folks that qualify for Section 8 vouchers, need a few things. They need access to affordable housing. That one we probably could have figured out up top. They need somewhere to live. And they also found out that they need to be protected from landlords who take advantage of them. Folks are often put in situations where they're taken advantage of because if their housing isn't up to code, the landlord will threaten to evict them. Or if just other unjust evictions, and lots of reasons that they realize that there's a huge equity problem and power imbalance in this relationship. On the landlord side, we often talk of landlords as not our favorite people, but I love my landlord, and there are good ones out there. So what they learned is that there's a lot of landlords that would love to accept Section 8 vouchers. They're open to it. They'd love to help out. They just have no idea how to start. They don't know how they would get that funding. They don't know how to set up the process. And also they have a need to find tenants they can trust. Whether they're low income or high income, you want people living in your properties that are trustworthy and will treat it with respect. So they need some way to validate that. So with those needs in mind, Renter Mentor came to this how might we statement that I saw someone talk about in the comments before, which I won't dive too deep into. That's a little bit more design thinking 201 than 101 that we're at today. But the definition statement that they had was, how might we connect more landlords and tenants in an equitable way? How do we connect people to affordable housing and eliminate that power balance? And they did zoom into the central Ohio area. So Jerry had a lot of up close experience with this issue because he worked at the Ohio Metropolitan Housing Authority beforehand, which gave him all of this empathy work up front that helped him get started on this project. So narrowing in on figuring out how to implement equity into this into this process and match folks to housing. They moved on from definition, which honestly is the hardest phase of design thinking, in my opinion, to ideate, which is the most fun phase of design thinking. Who here loves ideating? Love a good brainstorming session? Yeah, I thought so. If not, I'm a little worried, but that's okay. Maybe you're the doers that help take the ideas to reality, and in which case we need you as well. But ideating is fun and also pretty simple. It's brainstorming. It's your shower thoughts. It's when you're laying awake in bed at night and you're like, this problem needs solved. What can we do about it? Sometimes it's not sticky notes and whiteboards. Sometimes it's just walking down the street and thinking, maybe I have an idea. We could do something about that. So I want you to all go back with your groups. You'll be back with the same groups. And I want you to spend just a quick ideation session. We'll do another like 5 minutes or so. And I just want you to rapid fire brainstorm. How could we, I'll go back to the prompt. How might we connect landlords and tenants in an equitable way? What are all the different ways that we could do that? You can go big. You don't really need to be connected to reality. Nothing too crazy. Definitely still solving the problem, but brainstorm big, and I'll give you 5 minutes. Ready, set, go.
Cool.
It's just reading the chat. Yeah, this is fair.
Lacey came in for like a second.
Yeah, I saw. I was like, whoa, Lacey.
Yeah, she literally came in and sent me a message and then left. So
Oh, what did you say?
I think it was just testing the Zoom functionality.
Oh,
Yeah, she's like, glad Zoom's working. And then she's like, I'm gonna hop off, but I'll keep an eye on Slack.
okay.
Which I was like, okay.
All right. Yeah, I saw Lacey and Ben are both in the.
Which I'm not even part of that Slack channel.
Yeah, which is strange.
Well, so like Tech Elevator has their own.
Yeah, that's what you guys were
Slack channel.
saying.
Yeah.
Weird.
So it's funny because like Ben will mention Slack channel, and I'll think the one that we created within Tech Elevator, but he's talking about the other one. So
Yeah.
A little confusion.
Sad. Well, we are number 2, and yesterday's was Ben's. So if something's gonna go wrong, it's gonna go wrong today. But we still have enough people to run the workshop. That's all that really matters.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we talked about it where I guess somebody was like trying to take over yesterday's.
Yeah. You can start to bring them back now.
Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully all those kinks get worked out before the rest of them. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Virtual events are just wild. Every time it's different.
Yeah.
Hello, welcome back. All right. What was your favorite idea? Someone's got to have
I don't
one.
want our group to dominate. We talked last time. Who else had ideas? Anyone?
Bye, Adam. Thanks for coming. Christy, Mary, you have ideas? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm in the same team as Dave, but we just said, I think one key thing is like, meet them where they are, was like the takeaway, meaning pantries, schools, libraries, online communities, just reach out. We don't know where they are, but that could be one option.
Cool, very cool. Anyone else?
I think in our group, we didn't so much talk about any specific solutions, so much as like every solution we thought of brought up questions, which sort of comes back to that idea that it's an iterative process. Like that means you're doing it right. If you need to go back to that empathy and ask more questions, then it's a good thing. You're following the process.
Yes, Rachel, yes. And I was reading some design thinking critique last night, just design thinking nerd things. But I think it's fair. Every time I talk about design thinking, I try to see like what people are up to. And people have been throwing a lot of smack at it lately, which I think is fair. And one of the things that folks were talking about is that you try to make design and creating something so this like linear hexagon process. And the critique was basically like, that's not realistic. It doesn't work like that. It gets way messier. And I think that's really important to acknowledge, is that we're teaching this in these nice, neat little phases, because that's how you understand the vocabulary. But really, you're going to get into it and you're going to say, oh, we start brainstorming. And then you're like, oh, wait, no, we got to ask more questions. But you're not like, back to the empathy phase. So the concepts are really the important thing here. But the iterative process, I would say, really brings home how that works out in the field, even if it's still a jargony word to explain this very human process that we're experiencing. Well, cool. That's fair. And I'm glad that you guys had a lot more questions, because that means you're doing things right. So ideation, again, I'd say is the fun part of design thinking. So I'll tell you what Renter came up with if you're not familiar with them. So Renter's idea was this this two-sided marketplace web platform. So a website that both landlords could come to, tenants could come to, tenants can find people that are reputable, landlords can find people that are reputable. It would have a two-way rating system, kind of like Uber, where if you weren't great, you could have low stars and you could see that. You could search geographically, you could search by rental history and see all this data to just allow a lot more transparency and then create equity, which sounds great. But when Rent to Mentor started, they started in a weekend style event with Give Back Hack. And if you're a tech person on this call, you know that you can't build that platform in 3 days. And you shouldn't. Design thinking says that you shouldn't just jump in and build this entire thing if you've only spent a few days thinking about it and talking to your users. So how do we do that? We prototype. Prototyping is both difficult and fun, in my opinion. And you've probably heard this word used in a lot of different ways. But the best way to describe a prototype is a tiny little experiment. Like, how can you shrink down this big idea to a small thing that you can test? And you want to test the most important things, which is hard to define early on, but finding the core of your idea is really important. So Rent to Mentor is trying to work towards this web platform, but they're not testing whether they can build a website. Websites have been built before. Two-sided marketplaces have been built before. They're trying to test whether people want to interact in this way, whether landlords and tenants can achieve like any sort of equitable relationship through connection. And so they didn't start by prototyping a website. I'll give you that hint. But their goal was really to learn. So prototypes can come in lots of different forms. They could be a conversation with someone. You could prototype an app on a Post-it note. You could run a workshop instead of an entire training program. You could put out a Google form. You could start a Slack community. Lots of lightweight things that you could do in a day if you wanted to. But really this goal of prototyping and testing, they kind of go together, is to get feedback. Run your experiment and figure out what would happen if we tried this. How do folks interact with this? And it really is aligned with the empathy phases in that you're still going back to your users and talking to them. So what I want you to do now is probably the little bit more difficult part. I want you to spend some time. This is going to be some hard ideating time. I will tell you that I want you to figure out how you could prototype this Rent to Mentor platform, this idea of a two-sided marketplace where both people can interact. How can you prototype that in 3 days? What's a way that if you were given just a couple days and you needed to prototype something and test it, so build anything, even if it's as small as a Post-it note, and put it in front of people and get results in just a couple days, what would you do? Does anyone have any questions about that before I release you back to your groups? No? Okay, cool. All right. We'll give you, oh wait, maybe in the chat. Let's see. Okay, cool. So we're going to go back into our rooms. I want you to spend, I'll give you a little longer time. Do we feel like a little longer time for this one? Maybe, yes. Okay, cool. We'll give you about 10 minutes, maybe a little less if we feel like it's been enough time. But again, you're going to figure out how you could prototype and test that concept within a few days. Have fun.
And I changed the team up a little bit where Adam left. Okay. So I combined you with the other team. So just a heads up for that team.
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome, yeah. Yeah, I just combined it so that we could have 2 teams of 4. Oh, you're muted.
I said I hated it. No, I'm kidding. It's totally fine. It's always, I think it's always interesting how these things go. Because if they like found an idea that they latched onto or something like that, then it might work for them to be together, but this is fine.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I did that is because when Adam left, I left just a team of 2.
Yeah.
So I was like, might as well just combine them.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's funny, Tech Elevator made t-shirts that say unmute yourself. Just because when we went virtual, one of the most common phrases that we would say is, hey, you gotta unmute yourself. So like, it's kind of like a double take, like unmute yourself quite literally and then also like figuratively.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah.
I like that. That makes me laugh. I saw I feel like all the like work culture management articles these days they're kind of cringy, but I was reading one that was like at the start of the pandemic we had such a hard time with Zoom meetings, like no one arrived on time and it always ran late and we didn't know how to do it, and now we like start on time and end on time, but there's no bullshit, like there's no laughing, there's no like fun. And so it was basically like advocating for like coming up with running gags with your team, which is just like the most cheesy manager thing ever. Like, I want to be a cool boss, I'm gonna come up with jokes. Like, but like they gave some fun examples of how teams like had like they had their kids make like unmute yourself signs, or like that a tradition of like starting meetings with everyone's pets, or I don't know, just like silly things that I did think were kind of nice. They were funny. But I was like, this is the most like cheesy management article I've ever read. Like, how do we put it together? But I do think it's fair. Like, even in like volunteer meetings, like we tend to not like go on tangents because you want to respect everyone's time, but also like it's no fun at all if you don't like joke ever.
Yeah, it's also awkward because like in a virtual setting, like you don't know, like there's no physical cues, there's no things that you can pick up on. Yeah, so it's a bit weird. And then like internet connection's bad, so sometimes you don't know if you're speaking over somebody, and it's awkward.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And I think it's probably different with teams that like worked together more previously versus started working together virtually. Because I find myself with people that I'm like friends with outside of like work or volunteer groups, it's a little easier. But if it's like new meetings, it's very like I will like wait to talk. I'll make sure I don't interrupt you, like less banter. Yeah, that's fair.
This world we're living in it's wild. It's
wild.
very different.
It really is.
Like it told me, last year at the beginning or at the end of 2019 that this is how it was going to be, I would have laughed, not believed anything.
Yeah. I'd say the one thing I'm thankful for is that like the start of 2020 for me was like a really fun time. Like I took a lot of trips and I spent a lot of time with friends. So I have no regrets as to how I spent my pre-pandemic time. And I think that's like a little bit of solace for me, that I did the things that like if you would have told me there's going to be a pandemic in a few months, like I wouldn't have probably changed my actions, which is cool.
Yeah. I went to New Orleans.
Okay.
Like as it all started.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning, like when the reports are coming out and stuff like that. So that was interesting. Like, being in the airplane and some people were wearing masks, some people weren't. Like because none of the mandates had began. Like the country hadn't even shut down. It was like at the beginning of February, I want to say. So that was interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I remember even like being at like a coffee meeting with like a mentor, and she's like in health tech, so she's like reading all these reports coming out, and she's like, yeah, the stuff in China is really crazy. Like it seems like the Chinese government isn't releasing the data and we don't know why, and we're trying to figure it out. And then all of a sudden it's like everyone's problem, and it became very clear that like no one has accurate data.
Yeah.
It's not just like they know and they're not telling us. Like it was a whole thing very quickly, which is so weird to be talking about it as like someone else's problem, and then like a few weeks later, oh yes, I see.
Yeah, 2020 was wild.
Yeah, it really was. But hey, I keep optimism in the fact that the weather's getting warmer and vaccines are speeding up. We got so many more vaccines, which is good news.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw, think of like Mississippi and Texas, they got rid of all their mask mandates.
I did see that.
Which I'm like, it's a bit extreme, but
yeah, it's interesting. I think it'll be interesting to see how it goes, because there's the same thing with shutting down, like people that like cities and states that shut down completely early. We were like, all right, that feels extreme, but let's see how it goes. And I feel like it's kind of the same way in the opposite. Like Personally, it's not something that I would be excited about if I lived in one of those states, but we'll see how it goes. Like, you really, at this point, like, we just get to see what happens.
Yeah.
And if cases don't go up, then we don't know why, but less people are sick, and I guess we'll just take that. But I don't know. I don't know. Especially after Texas just had like everything that just happened, like with the freeze and the electricity. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's bold.
Yeah, bold is a good word for it.
Yeah. And then I think you already know, because we kind of spoke about it yesterday. There's a poll that they want me to launch like 5 minutes before or something like that. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I think it's just like, I forget what the questions are. Yeah, like, would you recommend this show? And stuff like that.
Okay, cool. Good stuff. Yeah, we'll see. I'm definitely gonna end early.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna break down, we'll talk about how Rent to Mentor prototyped and tested, and a few more slides. Yeah, because of the size of the group, I don't think I'm going to say like, let's do networking breakout rooms.
Yeah.
I'll probably just say like I'll do my wrap up and I'll say like, if you'll stick around for a minute to do some polls, or I can do that before, it doesn't matter to me. And then I'll say like, I'll stick around if you want to chat, like we can talk if you guys want to, but I'm not gonna like, I don't think I'll put them back in breakout rooms, because I have a feeling that this size group, most people have chatted with each other already. It's a small group.
Yeah, it's pretty small group.
You can probably bring them back though when you're ready.
Yeah, you want me to bring them back?
Yeah.
Cool. And then I guess there's also a form that they want me to share that captures their email.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it's just a link to a Google form.
Okay.
So I'll put that in the chat towards the end as well. I don't know if you want to touch base on that or.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'll finish my presentation. Oh, hello, everyone. Welcome back. You caught me while I was away. All right. So hopefully y'all designed some brilliant prototypes that you're gonna test, just go do in the next few days. Am I right? Yeah, totally. For sure. I see. Yep, I see some confident nods, of course. Okay. Did anyone come up with a cool prototype they want to share? Like, how would you test out? What would you test if you wanted to approach this this product?
I can go.
Yeah.
So I was in a group with Christy, Deborah, and Rachel, and we talked a lot about kind of two different ways. If we had technology, how would we leverage it? And if we as the prototyping group didn't, what kind of how might we create, this prototype in a different way? So from the technical standpoint, building this platform using wireframes, whether it be, share it out in PowerPoint, doing some remote testing with folks, especially during the pandemic time, perhaps doing some card sorting with individuals, figuring out how, what feels right from a user experience standpoint, pivoting to the other side for a minute and looking at just creating it on poster board, right? And creating something very tactile and taking it. We talked about a couple different types of user testing. So we could go individually to like a landlord housing location and speak directly and take our poster board with us or our PowerPoint, or we could go to a broader, like let's hold an event where we can have a handful of people, hopefully in a safe, masked way, to then create the sense of community of the two-way teaching and learning from that perspective. We also talked a lot about the unintended consequences or the outcomes of how, if you're a landlord, a lot of times they have assumptions around Section 8 housing where, maybe the persona is, a former felon or a sexual predator or, low income and history of evictions, right? How might we answer some of those questions up front for the landlord so that, if we're building the system and they're going to a pass fail, like they immediately fail some of the tests that we had because they're saying, well, we're not going to take convicted, previous convicted felons. Well, how can we educate this group up front, and how can we incentivize the group so that we can offer up more housing opportunities and continue to educate so that we can create these partnerships?
Yeah, that's great. I love, one of the things I love about what you talked about is really like meeting the community where they are. I think like an assumption, this case study isn't perfect. Like even the idea of a two-sided marketplace is a huge assumption. Like we don't know that people want to do this on a website. Right now, like Section 8 housing is very antiquated. That's the need for this solution, is that the current website doesn't work very well. And a lot of times it's like physically done. So there's a lot of assumptions there. And you're right, there's so many different like equity pieces that design thinking, again, this is more 201 than 101, but it's this process of like going big and ideating and coming back down and focusing in. And that's kind of, you started to scope out again, which is okay. There's lots of things to continue discovering. But what I will share with you is some of the ways that Renter Mentor has prototyped and tested. And I think that they've done a brilliant job of this, which is why I love using them as a case study. So they started with focus groups, just to continue empathy of just like getting folks in a room, paying them for their time and talking to them about their experiences. Then they moved up to a housing match session. They brought, I believe it was like 10 to 20 of each side, like 10 to 20 landlords, 10 to 20 people seeking housing into the same room and kind of played matchmaker, like speed dating. They put folks together and saw like, can we form these relationships? That used no technology at all. They just recruited folks, put them in the room and housed people that way. Then they moved to more of a consulting model, which is really popular for folks addressing, I think, a lot of different issues, but especially social issues through tech, to see, can we do this manually first? Can we kind of convince people that there's a platform, but really what we're offering is just the service? So Jerry, the founder, would match one-to-one. People would email him and say, I'm looking for housing, and he would help them find housing, which feels not scalable and not like the things that we want technology to do, but it was important because he needed to know how those relationships work to understand what features to build into his technology. From there, he scaled up to a hotline. He launched a public 800 number that anyone could call during business hours to be able to do the same consulting service thing, but just at a bit of a larger scale. So it was more public. And he's getting ready in a few months to launch the beta of his platform. While he was doing this past phase over the past 6 months or so, his team has been building out technology that is a rough beta test, early stage, but will be able to work and manage data and launch to figure out what's next. And I know he's also always looking for folks on his team. So if you're super fired up about this idea, I'd always be happy to make a connection. But those are some of the brilliant ways that they've found to prototype and test with very low funding, very lean, small team, but being able to gather so much data and move the needle, taking small steps. iterative steps towards approaching this affordable housing problem. So as Rachel said before, and as all of you have said, this iteration is kind of the implicit design thinking phase. You do it again and again and again and again and again. And you learn something and you apply it, and you learn something and you pivot your idea and you test and you prototype and you test over and over again forever. But like I said, it doesn't look like this when you do it in real life. You're not mapping out what stage am I in and what do we do. It starts to feel a lot more natural. Like we learn some things, okay, what do we do with that information we learned? It's really, when I teach this to students, I just say it's the scientific method. If you remember the scientific method from grade school, design thinking is just that. It's that simple. We just use it for lots more things these days. So there's a few parting thoughts I'll leave you with, just to sum up this design thinking for social impact or designing for social impact. We really talk about apprenticing the problem, which is what we've talked about all day. What can we not assume about the issues at hand? And how do we treat lived experience like expertise? That's the most important thing, as someone from the outside coming in to tackle an issue that we haven't experienced ourselves. And it's also really empowering for communities. You can start where you are with what you have. If you have no funding and you want to start a company, start this way. Figure out who you can talk to and what you can test to build in a lean fashion. Disclaimers. A few things. One, we can't solve poverty in an app. I'm going to tell you that not to be pessimistic, but to be blunt and honest with you. The social impact communities and disadvantaged communities don't trust tech folks because so many people have come in and said, we'll fix your problems with technology through this hackathon or by solving XYZ. I think that technology can be leveraged to scale impact and can be really, really powerful, but we can't come in with the mindset that like someone just hasn't tried it yet, because we have. So using that empathy and understanding that perspective will be key to success if this is something you want to do. Another thing is that we believe that we cannot and should not all be founders. You might have a great idea, but there's people who have been working in these issues for a long time, and using resources together will be key to making change. Nonprofits fail every year, and it's not because they are not doing the right things, it's because we have a lot of them. And I love nonprofits. I've worked for quite a few. But if you're thinking of a technology impact solution, reach out to someone who's already doing the work and see how you can partner with them. And the last thing I'll share as a disclaimer that I read a lot in design thinking critique, so I think it's important to talk about, is this idea of privilege and equity in design thinking, which didn't come from me until later, but Creative Action Lab is an organization that really talks a lot about equity in design thinking. And the key is really that we talk about failing early and often, and it's okay to learn things, but not everyone has the opportunity to fail more than once, to fail early, to fail often. Some people only get one shot because of who they are, because of their identity as a person of color, as a woman, as someone from the LGBTQ community. You don't get as many opportunities as other folks because of what you look like or how you present. And sometimes being invited to the table only happens once. So I can't stand up here and say like, go design, go fail in front of people, go learn, it'll be beautiful, because everyone's lived experience is a little different. But if you're inviting the right people to the table and using this as a mindset, it's definitely a way to move the needle forward. So now that I've left you on that low sweep, I'll leave this up just for some context about Give Back Hack, but I'm actually going to turn it over because I know we have some quick polls for the TechLife team just to get some feedback, because this is a first run. This is the second show of this TechLife thing. We're trying it out. So we'd love to just get some quick data from you. I think we have 2 polls and a link. Is that right?
It's just going to be one poll. Yeah, so really quickly, I'll be launching a poll. It's got a couple questions on it. If you could answer it, that would be greatly appreciated. I'm also going to be posting a link in the chat. This link is just a email form if you would like to receive emails from TechLife. Like Emily mentioned, it's a new idea that's being started to kind of put startups in Ohio together. So if you would like to receive emails from them, please feel free to fill out that form. So here goes the poll. And then I'll be posting the link in the chat here shortly.
When you say, would you recommend this show, are you talking about what we just did or what you have on the screen?
What we just did, or just like what Emily presented on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it says show. So I'm like, did we just do a show, or are you talking about this session?
Yeah,
So,
this session.
Yeah, this session. They're using this idea of TechLife shows, TechLife
see.
Live. It's like we're trying it out. It's a concept. It came from Ben Blinkera's brilliant mind, so we're excited to try it out. But yeah, they're calling them shows rather than like meetups.
Makes sense. Just making sure.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate the clarification. In the meantime, someone in the chat asked for my contact. It won't let me chat you back, but here's my contact and all of Give Back Hacks information. I'm super excited to get virtual coffee, to connect on LinkedIn, any of those things. Y'all have been awesome workshop participants, so I appreciate you all for coming and just being part of the TechLife community, welcoming you into the Give Back Hack community. You saw on this page that we do community events that everyone's welcome to come to. So if you're excited to join a team or to see if you can help someone out for a weekend or into the future, we have lots of really cool technology social impact projects to join. Our next public event will be in October, but we have lots of other things going on, short workshops like this, happy hours, community connection points. So feel free to follow us on the socials, email me, those things. But I appreciate you all. Thanks so much for joining us on this sunny Wednesday afternoon. And I will hopefully talk to you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really good. Thank you.
Yay, we did it.
Awesome.
Good stuff. Cool.
I'm gonna hang out for a second because I don't know if I hit end poll, if it's gonna erase all the data and I gotta transfer it somewhere. So I'm gonna hang out for a second.
Okay, cool. But you don't need me for anything?
No, unless you have feedback for me.
I don't think so. No, I felt like we worked together fine. It's nothing too complicated. So I appreciate you helping out. It's definitely helpful for me also to just not be alone. Sometimes it's lonely facilitating workshops by yourself. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'll be sending a LinkedIn request at some point.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to it.
Did you already connect? I'm not too sure.
I did not search you yet. So okay. I don't think so.
I'll be sending you a LinkedIn.
Cool. Sounds great. Awesome. Bye. Thanks so much.
Take it easy. Mm-hmm.